Week 2 is we continue with solving equations, and we're going to expand that with inequalities and absolute values. So one of the most important tasks you're going to do in this class is to be able to solve equations. So let's begin by reviewing how to do solving equations. In order to do solving equations, there are two properties you should know. One is the symmetric property, where that means you can flip the left side and the right side of the equation, left and right. And then distributive property, where the number in front of the parentheses gets distributed to the numbers inside the parentheses. So, symmetric property basically says, say I have something like this. X plus 1 is equal to 9. This basically says you can flip the side, so 9 is equal to x plus 1 or vice versa. Okay. The distributive property says something like this. The form is this. So this means whatever the A is, whatever the B and C are, the A gets multiplied with the B, A gets multiplied by C. So for example, if you have something like this, this 3 gets multiplied with the X here, and then this 3 times the 5. So 3x. 3 times 5, that's 15. So what's in the middle? Well, it's always what's in the middle here, so that's a plus sign, so the plus sign goes here. So we'll be using both the symmetric and distributive properties to help you with solving equations. There are a number of ways to solve equations, but for this class, we're going to follow 3 simple steps. One is to simplify. 2 is consolidate. And last one is multiply or divide to get to this state. Whatever the variable is, I want to know what that is specifically. So let's start with an example. Solve this equation. The first step says to simplify. What that means is that look at each side of the equal sign, this side, and then that side. Simplify it, meaning that make each side as short as possible. We do that by combining the like terms and then combining the numbers. So if you look at the left side, the like terms are 5y, negative 2y. Those are like terms because they share the same variable. And not the 9. 9 is not the like term because that's a number, these are variables. So I'm going to combine the 5y minus 2y, which makes it 3y, plus 9. On this side, if you look at it, it's as simple as possible, 4y plus 6. These two cannot be combined, so there's nothing more you can do. So leave it as is, 4y plus 6. So I simplified both sides as much as possible. The step 1 is done. Step 2 says consolidate. What that means is that consolidate all the variables to one side, and for this class we're going to pick the left side, so all I want to see on the left side is the variables. And on the right hand side, all I want to see is numbers. So I'm going to consolidate or combine the numbers on the right hand side. to do so, you look at each term, this, and this, and check. So 3y, that's a variable, and then we want the variable to be on the left side, so that stays there. This 9 is a number, and we don't want any numbers on the left-hand side, so we have to deal with that. And I'll show you how in a little bit. This 4y is a variable, and like I said, we don't want the variable on the right-hand side. We want to deal with that. And the 6 is okay, because it's a number, it's on the right-hand side. So going back to 9, how do you get rid of the 9? Well, that's positive 9. We want to make it a 0. So I'm going to subtract 9 to make it a 0. As soon as you do that, the golden rule in algebra, which says if you do anything, any operation, add, multiply, subtract, or divide on the one side of the equal sign, you got to do the exact same thing to the other side of the equal sign. Since I've subtracted 9, I'm going to subtract the 9 from here as well. The same deal here, 4y. How do you get rid of the 4y? Well, it's a positive 4y, so I'm going to subtract 4y. Do the same thing over here. So if you rewrite this whole equation right here, 3y minus 4y, that's just negative y. 9's go away. 4y's go away. 6 minus 9, that's negative 3. So we're close to say y is equal to something, except there's a minus sign in front. So then we're going to go to the step 3 to get rid of that minus sign. So do you multiply or divide? Well, in this case, it's an invisible 1 here. Negative 1, actually. And then there's nothing between the two, so that means that's an implied multiplication. So how do you undo multiplication? Well, that's a division, dividing. So I'm going to divide. Divide by what number? That's always the question, but it's always the number in front. So in this case, negative 1. So negative 1, negative 1. So if I solve this, y is equal to 3. So whatever the equations are, if you follow these 3 steps, and sometimes you don't have to do step 1, step 2, that's okay, you still have to check. But if you follow these 3 steps, you always get the right answer. In this case, y is 3. Another thing you should know is order operations. And it's these. So parentheses, they have their own order operations. Exponent. So multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting. So you do anything in this order. So if I use this to simplify 7x minus 2x minus 1 minus 3x, according to this order operations rule, the first part I'm going to have to look at it is parentheses. 1 minus 3x. It turns out there's not much you can do because these are not like terms. So I'm going to expand out to the brackets, which are here. So if you rewrite what's in the brackets, I'll get 2x. And again, this is the distribution property I was talking about. It's an invisible negative 1. So negative 1 times 1. Negative and positive number, negative wins, so negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 3x, so negative times negative, that's a positive number, so 3x. You gotta be careful here. A lot of people make a mistake there, think it's a negative, it's a positive. So if this is within the bracket, so if I simplify this, it's going to be 2x plus 3x, those are the like terms, so 5x, and then minus 1. So whatever is in the brackets get reduced to this thing. So I'm gonna put these around in parentheses because there's a parentheses. And then rewrite this, 7x minus. Don't forget to put the parentheses here because it plays a crucial role later. So if I were to simplify this again, 7x minus, again it's an invisible -1. So -1 times 5x, that's -5x. -1 times -1, 1 times 1 is 1. Negative, negative, so that turns to be a positive. So if I simplify this further, you get 2x plus 1. And that's your final answer. So let's move on to solving inequalities. So before we go on to solving inequalities, there are a few things you should know. This is an equal sign. This means less than. This is greater than. If you have a bar, either this or like this is less than or equal to. Same thing the other way. This is greater than or equal to. So if I write something like this, this means that the x is greater than 2, but not equal to 2. If I draw this on the number line, 2 is over here. To represent a greater than sign, where there's no equal sign underneath, you use an open circle. On the number line, to the right means increasing, to the left means decreasing. So in this case, x is greater than 2, so I'm going to put the arrow to the right. Similarly, say x is less than or equal to -1. How do you draw that on the number line? Well, 0 is here, so -1's over here. To represent greater or less than equal to or greater than equal to either one of these, it's a filled in circle, so filled in circle. And then since it's less than -1, less than means to the left, so I'm going to draw arrow to the left. So for greater than, you use a circle. Less than equal to, you use filled in circle. So let's move on to solving inequalities. Okay. If you read the notes, you notice that the solving inequalities is almost exactly like solving equations, except there's one tiny addition, 3a. Which says, at the end, you multiply and divide to get to something similar to x equal to something something. But then if you multiply or divide by a negative number, so multiply or divide by a negative number, flip the sign. And I'll show you what that means. So let's do two examples. First one is to solve this. Solve this inequality. 4 plus 3x minus 6 is less than 2x plus 2 minus x. So following the same steps, I'm going to simplify the left-hand side. 4 and then 3x minus 6. So that makes it 4 minus 6 minus 2. So less than 2x plus 2 minus x, so 2x minus x, so that's 2 minus 1, just 1x, which we don't write the 1, plus 2. As you can see, I'm treating the inequality sign as if it's an equal sign. I don't have to worry about that to the hand. So I simplify the left-hand side and right-hand side, so step 1 is done. So let's move on to step 2. 3x is okay. Negative 2, well, I want to get rid of that, so it's negative 2, so I'm going to add the 2. Do the same thing over here because of the golden rule. And then to get rid of the x, I subtract x. Same thing over here for golden rule. 2 is okay, so 3x minus x, that's 2x. 2's go away, less than, x's go away, 2 plus 2, that's 4. So I'm done with the consolidation. So steps 3, multiply or divide, okay? I'm going to divide again because this is implied multiplication. So divide. Divided by what? Well, it's this number right here. So 2 and 2. X is less than 2. Did I multiply or divide by a negative number? Not in this case. So the sign does not flip. X is less than 2. Sometimes you'll be asked to draw this. So I'm going to draw this. So 2 is over here. It's going to be an open circle. There's no equal sign. Which way the arrow go? The arrow goes to the left because it's less than, so less than. So it's very similar to solving equations. Let's do another one. Plus 2x plus 4 times 3 minus 2x is greater than or equal to negative 3. So same rules, simplify. I'm going to simplify here. Cannot, so I'm going to outside the parentheses to the bracket. So 2x plus 4 times 3, that's 12. 4 times negative 2x, so that's negative 8x. So within the brackets, this reduces to negative 6x plus 12, parentheses. Drop this, 15 plus. So that means 15 plus, oops. It's positive 1. 1 times negative 6, so the negative sign wins. Positive 1 times positive 12, that's plus 12. So this becomes negative 6x, 15 plus 12, 27. Even though the numbers before the variable, the convention is to write the variable first and then followed by the number. So even if the number is in front, that comes at the end after the variable. Right hand side is as simple as possible, so just write that. Greater than negative 3. Okay, I simplify both sides. Well, just the left side. This is going to 27. So subtract the 27. which becomes negative 6x minus 30. So if we rewrite it up here, oops. Okay, negative 30 there. So negative 6x is greater than or equal to negative 30. I want to get rid of the negative 6. I'm going to divide it by negative 6. Negative 6 divided, if you divide it, go away. Negative 30 divided by negative 6, negative numbers, so they become positive. Now, does it stay greater than equal to, or does it flip? Well, checking in 3a there, multiply and divide by a negative number, you got to flip the sign. Well, since I divided by a negative number, I had to flip this sign to say less than or equal to 5. This is because I divided by a negative number here. That's the only time you flip the sign. So if I draw this, it's going to be a filled-in circle and to the left. So that's how you do inequalities. Pretty much just very similar to solving equations, except this part. Okay. Now, let's do absolute value signs. Absolute values are represented by 2 bars. It's like this. So absolute value problems, among other things, is that they're a combination of 2 problems. If I ask you for this, absolute value x is equal to 5, what could be the x be? Well, x could be 5 for 1. How about the negative 5? Well, if I plug in the negative 5, what absolute value bars do is that it converts it to a positive number. So when x is negative 5, that also works. So as you can see, the absolute value problems have 2 solutions, 2 distinctive solutions. So we're going to use this fact in order to solve absolute value equations. Okay. So if you were asked to solve this problem, using this fact right here that it's going to be positive number solution and the negative number solution, I'm going to split this to 2 different problems. For one, just rewrite the absolute value signs as parentheses and leave the right-hand side as is, positive 6. The other one is do the same thing, change the absolute value signs into parentheses, but then make the right-hand side a negative. So if you see absolute value sign problem, you're going to have to do 2 specific things. One is leave it as a positive solution, positive number over here on the right-hand side. The other one is do the same thing except that make the right-hand side number a negative number, and then solve these individually, separately. So if I do that, it's a distributive property. 2 times 4, that's 8x. Minus 2 is 6. Add the 2. 8x is 8. divide both sides by 8, x is 1. That's one solution. So for this, same thing, 8x minus 2 is negative 6. Add the 2, 8x is negative 4. I'm going to divide by 8. That becomes x is negative 4 over 8. Or this is equivalent to negative 1/2. If you don't know how to convert the fractions to a simplified fraction, if you have a TI-30 calculator, here's how you can type. Negative sign, 4, ABC button, 8, equal sign. If you type in this sequence, you get this on your calculator. So the thing to remember about the absolute value problem is that to split the two problems, one with the positive on the right hand side and then negative on the right hand side. All right. Now your favorite topic, word problems. I really wish there's a way or something I can tell you to make the word problems easier. There really isn't any. The best I can tell you is to practice as many problems as you can. But there are a few tips you can use for any word problems. Read the problem carefully. A lot of people skip that part, so just do that and then write down what's given to you and then figure out what's required. Select the letter, say x, just pick x, to represent the one you want to find. And then translate the words into mathematical terms in an equation. That's the part that gets a little tricky, but after practice you'll see it. Solve the equation, check the results, make sure the answers are correct. So how many butterflies in the garden? Let's read it. 1/5 of the number of butterflies in the garden are on jasmines, and the 1/3 of them are on the roses. 3 times the difference of the butterflies on the jasmines and the roses are on the lilies. If the remaining one is flying freely, find the number of butterflies in the garden. Okay. I read the problem carefully. I think I know what's given and what's required. So what's required at the end of the day is that you want to find the number of butterflies in the garden. So let's make that an x. So x is number of butterflies. If I do that and then reread the problem, 1/5 of the number of butterflies in the garden are on the jasmines. Okay, 1/5. So that's a fraction. So these are on jasmines. The second part of the equation or the sentence says 1/3 of them are on the roses. So 1/3. These are on roses. 3 times the difference on the butterflies on the jasmine and roses are on the lilies. Okay. So what's the difference between the ones on the jasmines and the roses? Well, that's going to be the difference between these two. So x divided by 3 minus x divided by 5. What's the 3 times of that? Well, the difference is this entire quantity, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. 3 times, well, that's 3 times, multiplied by 3. So that's on lilies. don't forget, there's one that says 1, that's 3. Okay. So if I make the number, the x is the number of butterflies, they're on jasmines, these are on roses, they're on lilies, and 1 free, so x is going to equal to x over 5 plus x over 3 plus 3 times x minus 3 times x divided by 5 plus 1. So how do you do this kind of problem? Well, they're fractions, so let's get rid of the fractions. But before I do that, let's simplify the right-hand side. So x over 5 plus x over 3, in order to do that, on your calculator, type this in. To get this part done. So (8 over 15). So x is equal to 8 over 15 x plus, so I'm going to distribute this out. 3's cancel off, so only x remains, minus 3/5 x plus 1. So I'm going to add this up, this plus this minus that. So using the same key sequence, I get 14 over 15 x. Okay. So then I'm going to subtract this part from both ends. And I get 1 over 15 times x is 1. So how do you get rid of this 1 over 15? Well, if it's a fraction, it's a division. How do you undo division? I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 15. That makes x 15. So in total, there are 15 butterflies. So the word problems, first read it, figure out what's required, figure out what you have, make it an equation, and from there, that point on, it's the same as solving equations. So that's how you do that kind of problem. And that's it for Module 2.